so that those who are missing the presentation, who might like to hear what Karien has got to say, will be able to get access to the recording, because I do believe that this is very important, business critical information that all of us entrepreneurs and big business need to know. And Karien, we're thrilled to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to talk to the Mauritians. I wish I was there in person, but seeing as it's a 100% Zoom event, it wouldn't have helped me being there. I wouldn't have seen you in person anyway. So as you heard, I've been around quite a long time. So I'm the CEO of Footprint Africa Business Solutions, and which is the head office and works in 54 countries and in Africa, and then also the local company called FABS Solutions Mauritius. So we also have on this call Chris, who's one of our very senior engineers, and he sort of flits around the continent helping lots of our customers, and he's also the second level of support to Tanush and Nitin and Sanderan and the rest of the team that you know in Mauritius. But let's get straight into it. So today we're going to talk about data, firstly. And if this thing would move, that would be great. There we go. We're going to talk about data. Now, when you saw that the topic was data and it was backups and it was safeguarding our data, I'm sure the very first thing you thought about was your computers, right? It was your documents, it was your spreadsheets, it was your, I don't know, any other documents that you have on your laptop. And that is what a lot of people think about when they think about data, but that's not the only data we've got. Think about how much stuff you have on your phone that's got to do with your business. You have photos, you have videos, you have recordings, you have all your contacts. They might be on your laptop as well, but they're definitely also on your phone. So when we're looking at our data, we mustn't only think about what is on your computer, your laptop, what's on your server, what's in the cloud. And I'm going to talk just now a little bit more about the cloud. But for now, let's focus just on the stuff that you know you've got. Okay, are we clear? Are we? Please, I'm going to ask questions. So just answer and shout and just comment. But I have to move you. How do I move you to somewhere else? Because I can't see. There we go. Okay, so when we also look at data, we have to look at it. They call it the 4 V's, and they've now added a 5th V. So the volume of your data, how much data you have, the veracity of your data, in other words, how accurate is it, and how sure are you that the data you have on your laptop is correct. So think about, for example, having 2 documents. So you're working on one document, and then you're working on the other document. How do you know what is the latest document? So that is the accuracy of the information in your document. But more importantly, in this world we live in, has that document been infected by anything? So has it been infected by malware? Has it been infected? Is there a script running on it? Is there something that is not quite right with this document that maybe you can't see? Okay, then the velocity is how quickly can you get it and the speed that the document moves. So for example, if you have the document on a server and you are using your laptop, how quickly can you get that document and how quickly can you get it out? Or if the document is sitting in the cloud, for example, are you all understanding when I mention cloud? Sorry, before we start, before I carry on, can you maybe just tell me, are any of you in IT that is attending this? Or are you all, how familiar are you with the terms that I'm using? Maybe I need to do that first. Wait, let me see you again. Are you all understanding when I talk cloud,
yeah.
when I talk data?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I understand briefly. I know the meaning. But yeah, not the in-depth use of cloud and everything, but I can catch what you are saying. Yeah.
Okay, as long as you understand the basic concepts of what I'm saying, okay, that I'm not talking absolute gibberish, and at the end of it you go, what was she on about? Because we are going to get into...
I think that most people have at least a basic understanding of what you're saying, with the exception, I don't know Meryl, but I think everybody else has a basic understanding of the concepts.
Okay, so Meryl, maybe just for you then. So the cloud can be anything. It can be your Gmail, for example, that sits in the cloud. If you're using Microsoft 365, your Outlook, that sits in the cloud. Facebook is in the cloud. Okay, so anything that's not on your own laptop and that's not on your own server. Very, very basically, okay? Okay, so now let's look at some volumes, okay? Let's start at the bottom here, the usage stats. So 7.33 billion mobile phone users in the world. Okay, think of how much data you have on your phone alone, then add all the data you have on your laptop. Okay, so that's a lot of data. Then 95 million photos and videos are shared on Instagram per day. Just think about that data. We're not talking documents here. We're just talking data, okay? Any kind of data that you have access to, that you can use for something else, that has some information in it. YouTube, every minute, 500 hours of videos posted, okay? Look at Facebook, 350 million photos are uploaded every day. So this is just to give you an idea as to how fast data is growing. Again, think about your own phone. In the old days, we would take one photo of something. Now we're taking 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50 photos of the same thing. And we think, oh, we'll delete the ones that we don't like, but we actually never do. We just save them somewhere else. So the data is hardly ever getting deleted nowadays. We seem to be keeping more and more and more data. So let's look at this graph. So we're in 2023 now. So it is estimated that by the end of this year, there will be 120 zettabytes, and I will explain what a zettabyte is now. 120 zettabytes of data, and by 2025, 181 zettabytes. So let's look what is a zettabyte. Look at how many zeros of zettabytes there are. So most of you are familiar with gigabytes because your phones have got gigabytes of storage. Some of your laptops will have terabytes of storage. But when you look how much data there is, look how many zeros there are. And to put it into context, you can store 400 trillion books in 1 zettabyte. You can store a quadrillion songs and 2 billion years of continuous music, etc., etc. I'm just giving you these numbers so you can see how much data there is in the world. And to also show you that you have way more data than what you think you have. We really only worry about how much data we have when our phones come up with that dreaded message, storage full, or your laptop says, storage full. That's when you start panicking, and that's when you start deleting stuff or moving things. But up to that point, you continue filling up your hard drives, be it on your phone, be it on your laptop, be it on your server, or be it in the cloud. So why do we lose our data? When we look at the percentages, so 44% is a hardware or a system failure. Okay, where your hard drive crashes, where there's been a power surge and something goes wrong on your laptop. Or 14% where the software malfunctions for whatever reason. 32% of it is human error, where you accidentally delete something, overwrite something, or you do something silly. Only 7% of data is lost because of a virus attack, and only 3% because of a natural disaster. Now, if you have a company, lots of people will talk to you and tell you, what if there's a fire? What if there's a flood? But when we look at this, the numbers show us that hardware failure is the first cause of it, then us doing something silly, and then our software malfunction. Okay, so you're going to say to me, but I live in Kurapip. The chances of a flood is very low. I'm high up on the mountain, so the water will never get to me. Okay, maybe the wind will cause some trouble during a cyclone, but you know, my stuff is pretty well secured. So that's, people think about that as a natural disaster, but they don't really, we need to worry about these other reasons for things failing. When we look at a natural disaster, also don't just think of it as a flood. How many of you have knocked over a cup of coffee on your laptops, or spilled a glass of water, or dropped your laptop, or dropped your phone, even into the toilet? I hear is apparently the #1 reason for people getting their cell phones wet, just as an aside. And how do we get the data back? Okay, that is what we are going to talk about now. But before we get there, when we lose our data, there are a lot of things that happen to our companies and that happen to us as human beings as well. As a company, financial repercussions, you can lose your customers, you can lose your invoicing, you can lose your products, you can lose, if you're a manufacturing company, you don't know how to make your products anymore, the machines stop. Can be lots of financial reasons. Your reputation, if you can't deliver something to somebody because you've lost the data, you don't know who the customer is anymore, you don't know what they ordered, you don't know whether they've paid you or not. You can lose your competitive advantage, of course. You can get a fine, because with data loss protection, with all the regulations now across the world, and even in Mauritius, it becomes a problem if you're losing your data and you don't know where you've lost it to. So say, for example, somebody steals your laptop, or steals your server, or steals your phone. What access do they have? What information is on there that they can have? Okay, obviously now you're less productive because you don't have the data, and you can have some fines. So just to put it slightly differently, your ability to function, okay, personal data. Just think about your phone. If you lose all the phone numbers, in the old days, we used to remember the numbers in our head. Nowadays, we're not so good anymore. And because it's on our phone, we don't have to remember it. So that's for you personally. But think about now, if you add your business contacts as well, and you lose the addresses, and you lose the email addresses, it becomes a big problem, not only for you personally, but also from a data protection point of view. Okay, your business data we spoke about, and your critical business systems. This relates to your hardware system failure or your software corruption. So this is your actual system dying. So how do you restore your environment again the way it was before? So if you're running something on-prem, in other words, on your own server, the software gets corrupted. How do you get that back? Then most of us will end up in tears, right? Sorry, I need to get back here. So what is data backup? Very, very, very basically, we create a copy of our important information. We store it in a secure, separate location. And then we need to be able to find the backup again so that we can restore it in case something goes wrong. So it's a safety net. It is insurance. And like with insurance, most of us don't like to insure things. So many of you don't do the backups when you're supposed to do them, or you think I'll do it tomorrow or the next day, or somebody else will do it for me. Well, I've got another copy somewhere, I'm not sure where, but I'm sure I'll find it if I need it. So let's look at a little bit more detail around backup. So the best practice is 32110. What does this mean? So remember, this picture here is the basic process, but that's not what we should be doing in its entirety. It is strongly recommended that you always have 3 copies of everything on 2 different kinds of storage media. So what does this mean? You have one on your laptop or your server or the cloud. You have one on a hard drive maybe, or on a memory stick, and you maybe have one on a different laptop or in the cloud if it is a physical device that you have it on in the first place. Okay, so that's your storage media. You can see here, hard drive of some kind in the cloud or otherwise on a different computer. One of these needs to be off-site. In other words, not in the same building. This is in case something goes wrong with that building. It can be one in the office and one under your bed, not a problem if you don't have anywhere else safe to keep it, or with your mother or with your sister. Remember, we're talking about small business here. Obviously, the larger businesses will have different offices or different venues, or they will have a disaster recovery center. But this talk that we're giving today is mostly aimed at small business, okay? So one is off-site. But what is critically important nowadays is that you have one that is not connected to anything else and cannot be overwritten and cannot be changed. That's what air-gapped means, or the new word is now immutable. In other words, once you have written that backup to that particular storage device, you cannot change it. Nobody can change it. So it cannot be infected by ransomware, it cannot be infected by malware, and you're sure that that is the absolute accurate copy of the data at that particular point in time. Okay, why is this important? Remember, with ransomware, what happens? If you click on something that you're not supposed to click on, it then downloads a script or some malware onto your device, onto your laptop, onto your phone, or onto your server, and it sits there and it infects everything else around it. So if you're taking a backup once it's been infected, you are basically backing up the infection. So when there's a ransomware attack and you get that dreaded screen that says everything's been encrypted, pay 100 Bitcoins, and we will send you the decryption key, you can't go to your backup because now your backup has also been infected, which is why we now have this additional feature here, which is where you write it to something that cannot be changed and that cannot be infected in any way whatsoever. And then the 0 is to check that your backups have actually worked. So very often we start a copy job, we go to bed, and hopefully by tomorrow morning it says it's finished. But we very seldomly check that it has actually copied each and every one of the files. Sometimes maybe it only copied half the stuff. Maybe there was maybe you ran out of battery, maybe you ran out of space and half of it stopped, and you don't realize that it has stopped. Now, this is when we are doing these things manually, right? Because many of you don't have software that enable you to take your backups. So you're doing your own backups manually every night, every week, or whenever you remember. So what is modern data protection all about? In other words, modern backups. So firstly, backup and recovery, which is what we're talking about. You back your stuff up and you are able to recover it. You're protecting against ransomware. In other words, your data is secure. You can orchestrate the recovery process. In other words, you don't manually do the recovery. You have something that will enable you to do the recovery in the right sequence. You can reuse the data for another purpose. So say you are installing a new system, or you're upgrading your CRM, or you're upgrading your invoicing system, your finance system. You can then use some of the data that is sitting here in your backup as test data to make sure that your new system is running perfectly before you use it for your production, so that you don't have to go back and and fix problems that are happening because of the update. It helps. You should always have monitoring and analytics. In other words, that your backups work 100% of the time. And then obviously it needs to be able to back up your cloud documents and your cloud email as well. So it needs to cover your physical machines, whatever you have in the cloud, like your email, any virtual machines you are running, any applications you've got, and then any software as a service. So for example, if you're using Sage 1, that is software that sits in the cloud, and you don't have the software installed on your server or on your laptop, and it is sitting in the cloud. So how do we back that up? Okay, so let's talk about backups a little bit more. I know this is all a little bit technical, so please shout if you have questions. Sorry, I see there are 6 messages here. Are there things? Ah, okay. Monique, I will answer. I'm answering that now. I'm getting there. That's exactly your question. So there are 3 different ways of doing backups, okay? So backup, you take a full backup of all your data. And that is generally what happens when we back up when we back something up for the first time. Okay, so it's a new machine, you set it up, you add 3 documents, there's not been a backup before, so you are backing up those 3, right? And then tomorrow, because you can't remember which 3 you've backed up, so then you back up all 5, and then you continue. So it is a full backup. Now, this is not the best way to do it because it takes up a massive amount of storage. So day 1, okay, you back everything up. Day 2, you back everything up. Remember, you're not overwriting your backup. You have to keep your backups, and you'll see now when I show you the schedule. Then day 3, you do the same thing. Day 4, you do the same thing. So look at how much storage you are now using. So very soon, your storage device will be full. So we don't recommend this. And Monique, this is your question. So day 1, we back everything up. We take a full backup. Day 2, we only back up the changes. Day 3, we back up the new changes. Day 4, we back up the new changes. And then maybe we start the cycle again. Okay, so I'll explain now how we restore a thing. So the other one is the differential backup. So we take a full backup, then we back up the changes, then we back up those changes again, plus any new changes. Then we back up day 2, day 3, and day 4's changes. Okay, so you see the difference? I've got another picture, maybe just to explain it a little bit better. So here we take the full backup. Here we've had a little bit of a change, so we back that up. The next day we've got additional changes, so we back up that one plus those ones. Here we back up the same one, and then the new ones, and then we do a full backup again. Okay, so if you don't have a lot of storage, you do this one, because you can see you're only using a little bit of storage. If you're worried and you've got more storage, then this one makes sense. And if you're doing it all manually, unfortunately, then generally we do this one because we don't actually know what we've backed up or what has changed. Does that make sense? Okay, so now when we oopsie, sorry, let me just go back. When we restore it, on this one, it is easy because we have a full backup every day. So you can just, even if it's this day, you restore it and you put it back. When you do a restore with this one, you restore this one, then you restore this one, then you restore this one, then you restore this one. So it's a slightly longer process. Here, this one, when you do restore, you restore this one, and then you restore this one, because this one contains all 3 of these backups. Can you see there? Sorry, I can't see your faces, so I don't know if anybody's nodding, so please ask if you have a question. So, oh, good. So we were talking about best practices. So what is recommended for a small to medium-sized business is you do the full backup, then you do incremental, which is the second option. You can also do differential, etc., for 2 weeks. Then it is strongly recommended. So in week 3, you take a full backup again, and then you start the process again. Now remember, you don't overwrite anything. So this is your one set for the 2 weeks. Then you create another set for these 2 weeks, and then you create another set for these 2 weeks. And you can then decide, am I going to keep it for a month? Am I going to keep it for 6 months? Am I going to keep it for a year? If you're in the medical industry, you have to keep it for the lifetime of the patient. If you are in the financial sector, I don't know in Mauritius, but in South Africa, you have to keep it for 7 years. Okay, so obviously it is a very long time that you should be keeping your backups. So manual versus automated, and I'm sure most of you are doing manual. Am I right? Maybe just answer because I can't see you. Are most of you doing your backups manually if you're doing them at all?
Yes.
Okay, so why shouldn't we do them manually? First of all, it's a lot of work. Okay. Secondly, it's very confusing. But more importantly, easy to forget. It takes time. It really takes time, and who has got time? And because you have to make sure that they are backed up properly, you should really be sitting there watching them. And who's got time to do that? So most people do their backups overnight. Okay, you can make error, lots of errors. We can back up the same thing 5 times, of course, exactly the same thing. So we are wasting as well. They're very difficult to find. So if you do accidentally delete something, how do you and where do you go find the copy that you're looking for? And how are you sure that that is the latest copy? It's easy to overlook critical files, and it's also really easy to back up rubbish. So, for example, what a lot of companies have found before they all came out with these, you can't use company equipment for personal use, they found that they were backing up a massive amount of videos that the staff had downloaded and photos that the staff had downloaded that had nothing to do with the business. And at the same time, it's very easy not to back up all the critical files because a lot of the critical files are sitting on your laptops. So if you have 3 employees and 1 server, for example, each one of those 3 laptops need to be backed up because think of all the information that is sitting on your laptop. So times that by 3 of your 3 employees. So now there's a lot, maybe you're backing up what's on the server or what's sitting in the cloud that you're using as your server, but you're not necessarily backing up what's happening on your laptop. And the chances of something going wrong with your laptop is significantly higher than the chances of something going wrong with your server, for example. Because as I said, people spill water, coffee, they drop them, it can get stolen. Okay, also very easy to overwrite it. And very difficult to restore. Now, if we automate it, we can forget about it, which is so nice. And Chris is going to hate me saying this because you, of course, still have to check that it worked, but you can forget about it because it will just happen. It's more reliable, it's faster, fewer errors, very easy to find. You have proper data protection because you're following the 32110 protocol. It's easy to recover, and your business continuity is therefore quite simple because you can restore what you need to restore and you don't have to restore everything at once. So let's get into the solution. So what we are recommending is a solution called Veeam. And it is a solution that you will see these numbers and you're going to go, we're a small business, we can't afford this, what are you talking about? I'm leaving this call immediately, I don't want to be here, because it looks like it's a really scary solution, right? But wait. Okay, so I'm just giving you these numbers to show you that I'm giving you the same solution that works for the banks, that works for the governments, that works for the airlines, can also work for a really, really tiny 1-person company. So just to emphasize that, so it will help you to have a modern backup, It'll help you to cover all your cloud stuff, and it will protect you against ransomware, which we're also scared of, because if we're a little company, we can't afford 100 Bitcoins. Okay, and this is, see there, affordable. Now, if you're a bank or if you're an airline, it's still affordable, but it is, the volumes obviously are significantly different. Okay, so like I said, it is the same solution, whether you're a large company or a little company. And I know, I can't see you, but I know some of you are already sweating when you're seeing this, because you look at this and you go, how am I going to do this? Because it covers your cloud, it covers your virtual environments. Do you even know what these words mean? It covers your Windows, your Linux, your Mac, your Unix, your storage devices, covers your 365, in other words, your Office, your Outlook environment, any databases, any other Microsoft you've got, and if you are developing in containers, it even covers that. But today we're going to look at little companies, okay? So if you have up to 10 workloads and you have up to 10 users, we can offer you a completely free solution. So the same software that the banks and the airlines and everybody else is using, the really big companies, we are giving you or offering you the very, very same solution. And you don't have to pay anything for the software. Okay, you will still have to pay a little bit for the installation, because unfortunately we can't do that completely free, but I promise you MBN members get a very good rate. So what will it do? It will help you to back up all your data. It will give you a dashboard so you can see that it has worked properly, and you can back up your 365. Okay, and if you're a slightly bigger company, so you have more than 10 workloads and you have more than 10 people, then it is no longer free, unfortunately, but it is still a very affordable price. Okay, then up to 50 workloads and up to 250 employees. It is still a very good price. Okay, like I said, the very large organizations, they don't have access to this because they're too big for this. So why do I keep on mentioning that you need to back up your email? Because you're going to say to me, it's sitting in the cloud, Microsoft is looking after it. Sadly, they're not. So Microsoft is responsible for the infrastructure. In other words, they will keep the software up and running. That's what they do. And if the Cape Town Center dies, then it automatically moves to the Johannesburg one. And if that one dies, it automatically goes to Europe. And if it dies there, it then goes to the US. So they keep the environment up and running. They replicate the environment to wherever it needs to go. And if you never, ever, ever clear out your recycle bin, in other words, your trash, they will keep it for 30 days. After that, they will get rid of it for you. If they will also look at the security of the physical environment. In other words, they will make sure that nobody can enter the building, nobody can walk off with the storage, nobody can set fire to it or whatever. And they make sure that they have the physical controls. Okay, so from a physical point of view. So let's think about it. We have house insurance and then we have content insurance, right? Your house insurance looks after the building, the physical building. It will look after your water coming in. It will look after the electricity coming into the house. But it doesn't look after your TV. It doesn't look after your jewelry. It doesn't look after any of that. So you take out house insurance to cover the physical structure, which is what Microsoft does, and part of your payment goes towards that. But you are responsible for the insurance of the contents of the software. In other words, Karien sends an email to Denise. Denise deletes the email. but now she needs it. She can phone me and say, Karien, please resend it. But if she can't find me and it's critical, she can't now phone Microsoft and say, Microsoft, I accidentally deleted this email. Please get it back for me. Doesn't work like that, okay? You are responsible for your own data. Now, especially as a small business, our emails are absolutely critical. When you think how much information sits in your email, how much information sits in your Teams conversation, how much information sits in your SharePoint. Okay, so all of this is your responsibility because it is your 365 data. So you have to keep your own backup. You have to think about how long do I want to keep it for. Okay, you are responsible for deleting it, an employee causing havoc, evidence tampering in case there's a fraud case or there's a case against you, against any ransomware, malware, hackers, rogue apps, anything like that. You are responsible for the data. And your role within the data protection regulation in Mauritius as well, you must be able to answer the questions around how you are protecting your data. Okay? Are we all with me? So that is why we have to back up our Office 365, okay? In case we delete it, to be able to retain it, specifically if we are in a regulatory environment or if we have any financial data. So if any of you have to pay tax, who doesn't? The tax man can come back to us for a certain number of years and say, please provide the supporting documents. And if you can't find it, you are in trouble. Okay, any security, of course, internal and external, any legal and compliance. Okay, so say for example, you are using the AWS cloud for your software application at the moment, and you get very cross with them, or they put their prices up like crazy, and you now want to move to the Microsoft Azure. How do you move all of that across easily and seamlessly? If you have an automated backup system, it's really easy to do that. If you don't, you have to do it file by file, and then it's not so easy. Okay, and there's just around our Microsoft, okay, our team stuff. Okay, Chris, I am ready for you, so I can stop sharing. Chris is now going to show you how easy it really is. So maybe while he's doing that, have you got any questions? Have I completely bamboozled you? Any comments?
Karien, I don't have anything on my side. I think that the information that you're sharing is really well pitched, so that I certainly can understand nicely. Monique's putting her hand up though.
Karien, thanks very much. That's very insightful. Just a quick question, and I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Is it VM or VM that you mentioned?
It's VM.
VM. Are you offering the installation for MBN members in Mauritius, or can you also, because you've got such a big footprint here in South Africa, can we also contact you for the same here?
You may contact me wherever you are.
Thank you.
Okay, Karien, can you see my screen? Can everyone see my screen?
We can see the Zoom session.
Excellent. Okay, I'll start with the Microsoft one. But let me just go here first. To get access to this, the free solution, you go to that link.
No, Chris,
and
Chris, we'll do that. We'll do all of that.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm just showing where you can get the software. Okay, so once you have installed that, there's a community edition for server as well as for Office 365 and for Vim1, as you saw. This
Chris,
is the offer. Yeah.
You're sharing the Zoom session. You're not sharing the demo. So we can see ourselves beautifully.
Right,
Double,
excellent.
doubly.
Hi, Karien, just in the meantime,
Yes,
if
Rick.
I may, those softwares, they keep on updating until like it's our equipment which gets old and we have to change equipment. How
Yep.
does that work also? Because that's what happens. Sometimes it has an update where it's too slow for our laptop or something like that. We have no alternative than to change equipment, or what's
Very sadly, unfortunately, everybody's in business to make money. So I don't know, this is not a fact, but this is how I feel. This is my personal opinion. The software vendors and the hardware vendors work together, and
okay.
and as the software gets more complex and needs more RAM and needs more storage, the hardware vendors benefit from that.
Okay, I see. And secondly, so these form of backup, everything, they are in line with the like Data Management Act, right?
Yes, completely.
Okay.
So it's GDPR certified. But and obviously your data regulation is based on GDPR. So it is very similar. Yes.
Okay. So thanks.
Okay, so then can I continue?
Yeah, Chris, we can now see the screen.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so this is for Microsoft 365. You add your organization. I won't go into all the details, but then you can back up the Exchange Online, SharePoint, and Teams data. And then you have to authenticate. So if you have multi-factor authentication in your environment, that will be incorporated in here as well, obviously. And you have to add your backup infrastructure. That's where the backups will reside. And you can use a memory stick, for instance, and then take that offsite for DR purposes. And then at the DR site, you can just import that again. So it gives you a bit of portability. And you can see the history as well. So whatever happened there. But back to the organization. Now, these are all the backups that I've completed, and you can see the history there, what happened, what was backed up. Then you can also go and explore everything that in your mailboxes that do have backups. So let's take, for instance, in this user, that email testing should have calendar entry. So if you go there, this will list obviously everything that do have a backup, and it's for that user, you can do the calendar, the whole mailbox, everything. So
what
that's
is, sorry, Chris, just to interrupt. So what is so important here, the way they've set it up is that a user can restore their own stuff. So if the backup happens for you, you will now have access to your own backup of all your emails. So if you delete something by accident, you can now go and look for your email and then just put it back into your email.
And you have to re-authenticate, so there is security in there for that as well.
Okay, so re-authenticate means that it'll ask you for your user ID and password, and if you have multi-factor authentication, your OTP or your authentication app or whatever it is.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so you can compare with production, see if there are any emails that don't have backups yet, that kind of thing. But let me go to that one, and the user accidentally deletes it. So it's gone now. Then you can just right click and then restore to that mailbox. Restore it to a different location or to a different user as well. And that you can do the same all the way up back to the store. You can create PST files, that kind of thing. But so the whole mailbox, if you want to restore the mailbox, you can do that as well. So it's very granular. So now I have that email and I'll just restore it. Then it will ask for my authentication. There is definitely security in there.
So you see, you can't restore somebody else's email by accident, or you know, or if you've got finance data, for example, in this, or your company data, and Yannick or Emma start restoring stuff, they can't restore Denise's emails, for example. Chris, you're using all 20 MFAs on this one.
Yes. Okay, so then.
Yes, Rick?
No, I wanted to know, like, does it only backup data, or does it synchronize everything among all your equipment, all your server and everything?
Just wait, that we're busy with the email here. Chris will get to the backup and replication next. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Okay,
I mean, obviously this is a demo system, so it's not as fast as it would be running on your own environment.
And there's the email back. Okay, so then you can check the, if you want to restore the whole mailbox, as I said, you can do that as well. So that's the for Office 365 part. And it's the same if you want just to specify Teams stuff for all the users, then you can do that as well. So it's up to you to decide. Then you have the server portion, and it's same principle. You have your screen available with your history of everything that's available. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you can add your schedules to that Office 365 one as well. So if you want to take it at night, you can do that. You just have to ensure that there is storage available for the backup. And then the same with the servers. So you can check how it ran, see how long it took, see the general usage for that whole period of time. And you can run reports for that as well. So if you want to add servers, you can do that there. You can add virtual servers or physical servers. You can add if you have vSphere hosts, you can add the host, and then it will automatically pick up all the virtual machines that are defined on there. And the same with your file sheet.
Sorry, Chris, just hang on quickly. Rick, are you virtualized, or are you running everything on the physical servers?
Only running on physical server, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the same with your storage if you want to. Sorry? Okay, you add your backup infrastructure if you want to add extra storage. And you can, if you do have AWS or any cloud solutions, you can add that as well and use that as the location for your backups. And same with your tape infrastructure. For your files, that's all your file servers. And
Okay, but you guys don't need to panic about this. When we do the installation, we set all this up, okay? Chris is just showing you that it's not a difficult, long, lengthy,
Yes.
complicated process, okay? So you don't need to remember anything. He will show you how easy it is to get the stuff back and just to keep the schedules running.
Yes. Yeah, because it can become a bit daunting, get the correct IP address and all those kinds of things. So that's your servers. If you want to restart the job, you can just start it and it will do the backup. And you can specify what exactly you want to back up with that job as well. So that's creating a new one. You can create replications as well. There are limitations because it is the unregistered version. So there are functionalities for disaster recovery, but as I said, it's a bit limited. So you just have to check. Then you can either do a backup or copy to another file location in the same place. You can do your restore to your machine itself. So that's the whole virtual machine or the physical machine that you want to restore, or your file share. Then you can just go and select your file that you want to restore and do the restore. And as I mentioned, the import and export of backups. You have best practices that you can check as well. So obviously this isn't very best practical. But then you can just do the changes and then later on see if like the air gap and all those things to see if you are compliant.
Okay, just stop quickly, Chris. Just go back there. Go back to that list. Okay, so you can see there it's got the immutable or offline media should be used. Okay, so that is where it can't be changed. Okay, it always needs to be password protected. And it's also very good to use encryption. Now, when we look at the storage where you're going to put your backups onto, that's just something we need to look at. Because at the moment we haven't spoken at all about where you're going to copy it to. So some hard drives are automatically encrypted. They're obviously the slightly more expensive ones. But it means that if you lose it or if somebody steals it, they then can't just download all the information that's on there. So password protected and also make sure that it's encrypted. So which means it's not readable. Okay.
Okay. So then you've got your backup, and if you want to restore a file, this is taking a while, so I just made a video of that. So you select the file that you want to takes a bit. Okay, so let's say you have a file that you want to restore. And you can either restore the whole disk or the whole virtual disk or just selected files. So that's the server that you want to restore or the server on which the file is. Okay, yes. Then you have you can select the file that you actually do want to restore. And you can either restore it or copy it to a new location. So there I copied that one to the C folder.
But you see, it's exactly the same as if you're on your start menu on your laptop. You just go through the different files until you find what you want to restore, or you can restore the whole folder, or you can restore the whole machine.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Okay. So it looks like more clicks here, but it's the same process. It's not a different process. That's something that most of you are familiar with, because you do store your documents into folders, hopefully. And it's not just one massive My Documents folder from the top to the bottom. Please put things in folders, please. Give them decent names.
It makes the guy who needs to do the restores job a bit easier.
Also makes your own life easier to find your things again.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the backup and replication. And then, as you saw, there are reports that you can run, and that will make it a bit easier. But then you also have access to Vim1. And now Vim1 is it's like an add-on, you can say, that gives you a bit more functionality. So it does integrate with backup and replication, Microsoft 365, and there are a few other things as well. So that's a central dashboard for everything.
So now you don't need to be an IT person to read zeros and ones to see if it's worked. You can look at pretty pictures, and if it's all green, you're good to go.
Exactly. So then you can see all your alarms, data protection. If the servers...
Wait, Chris,
Yeah.
you were too fast. Go to the previous one. You saw that one said error. If it says error, don't do what Chris just did and go to the next screen.
You
It
sweep
means
it under
something
the rug.
hasn't worked.
Yeah. So that's obviously something to investigate.
But the good thing is, now you know when something hasn't worked. You don't have to guess that something hasn't worked. It tells you something hasn't worked.
Yeah, and if you have your 10 servers that you are entitled to, the backups, they will all be listed in here, and you obviously will have a lot more information to work with. This will be your physical servers, your file shares, that backup was successful, your databases and your networks, same thing. And then for your Vim1 agents, how are they performing? And then the same with your Microsoft 365 and your virtual infrastructure. The business view is quite useful as well. This is like something you will give to a manager, because it
Or
shows...
your auditor.
Or the auditor, yeah. Okay, I built this environment yesterday, so there's not a lot going on. But then you have one space for everything.
Okay, so let's just look. Wait, Chris. Chris, go back. Go back. You see that says healthy, warning, or error. So it will give you a pretty little picture that says 100% green, or maybe there'll be one or two bits that are orange, or maybe if there's anything that's red, then you need to worry, of course.
Yes, yeah. Then there's a web client as well.
Yeah, we live in the new world, so we want all our pretty pictures on our phones.
Okay, there's a tour. Then you have your backup and replication, your heat map, and then if you integrate with Office 365, that will be there as well. But you can add new dashboards. So there's a lot of flexibility. If you go into the dashboard, then you can also add widgets to that. So then this is for both the heat map and backup and replication. The graphs will look something like that.
Hey, don't go so fast, Chris. Go back. You're going too fast. Okay, this isn't that's a pretty picture. Can you see? You've got green, you've got some in error. And Chris, can you click on them to click through to see where the error is?
No, unfortunately not.
No, you can't. You have to go to the next report to see what's in error.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, then you can schedule the reports to run as well if you want to. You can edit the layout to make it look. So there's a lot of functionality in there. I'll just make this a bit smaller so then you can see the whole dashboard.
And now you feel like a bank, right? Got all your data at your fingertips and it's looking so smart. And when the data regulator comes and says, what's going on with your data? You can say, look, people, I have it all.
Yeah, and if you want to create more reports, there are templates available. And I'll just make this bigger again. So backup copies of some of this will contain data, some won't in my environment. But then you can select the one that you want to use, go and schedule it and see the jobs running in your calendar.
Chris, just
So,
go to the scheduling. Sorry, if you finished with the reports.
yes.
Oh.
Okay, so that's only for the full version.
Okay. Okay, we can't schedule it online. We have to schedule it on the.
Yeah. Okay. Select backup server.
Okay, so there you're scheduling it there.
So some things, as I mentioned, some things are available and some things aren't, because it's a free version. But we can assist you with from step one. And I think that's everything. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, Monique.
So in Veeam, it's great to see what it can back up, but I just wanted to check whether an entire website could be backed up using Veeam, so that if what happened over the weekend to my company website, when it crashed, and every host who are hosting it took 48 hours to put it back online, which was way too long. I even found the CEO's name and number on LinkedIn, and I wrote to him, and he never came back to me. So does Veeam do backups? Because currently I'm paying 2,000 Rand a year to an IT chap to do the backup. He then sends me in a WeTransfer the actual website files that are backed up.
You should be able to. That should be a file share. Because it's just a folder somewhere on a server. It can be either a cloud. So that's definitely something to check. I'll just confirm, but my initial feeling would be yes, it will be possible. And
Thanks,
then
I
you can
appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't see why not, but
yeah, if you have access to the actual folder where the files are kept, then it shouldn't be an issue.
And then if I store those files from WeTransfer, I actually download them onto my Dropbox, and I pay for additional space on Dropbox. Would that also be backed up by Veeam? And can you do it if a lot of your files are in Dropbox as well?
Dropbox, I'll have to check if.
So Monique, remember you still need somewhere to store the stuff. So Veeam doesn't provide the storage of where you're storing it. So you're still going to need a Dropbox or a hard drive or a cloud, access to the cloud somewhere. And there we work with you, because each company is different. Each requirement is different. I mean, depends how much data you've got. A lot of people just put it on 3 different memory sticks, for example. So it just depends, the volume, how often you might need access to it, things like that. But, so you still need the storage.
So currently I have, because of the Mac that I use, I have Apple storage. And again, I pay a nominal fee every month for that. And then the rest of the time I use this Lassie and do
Exactly.
the backup on that.
No, exactly. I mean, we all do that. I've got one here. I have another one there. We, you know, it's for small business, it's really the most cost-effective way to do it.
Okay, thanks.
Obviously, if you're a bank or something, you're not going to do it like that. Then you're going to have different equipment. So this talk is specifically around small business. So we try and make do with the most cost-effective way possible that still protects you 100%.
Karien, if I may, because I'm a little bit confused now. So Veeam is the process.
Yes.
Veeam is the process of automating the data backup.
Yes.
But it obviously, so then when you tell it to do the backup, what is it doing with that data? Is it not storing it somewhere? Or are you telling it where to store it? Is that what's, okay, so you've got to tell it where.
You telling it where to store it. Chris, maybe just go back to that demo.
Okay, you
just
will
where
see
you
your
do
faces
the sorry, where you do the setup, where you show. So you'll say store it in the cloud, store it on a hard drive, store it on another computer.
That will be your backup infrastructure. So if you want to add a server,
so you can use the Veeam cloud to store it, but we're finding for small businesses, because it grows so fast, it becomes very, very expensive. So it's a bit like storing stuff in the cloud. I mean, the first few times it's easy and it's not a problem. And then you get your invoice after 3 months and you go, I can't do this. So we don't recommend that. We recommend that we use the tools that we can control at this stage.
Yeah, and so your backup service can be any of these, VMware or Hyper-V, Microsoft Windows, Linux, or cloud native. But that, I'm not sure if that's, obviously you will have to pay some kind of fee for storage.
Yeah, I know.
We're
not going to do that for small businesses at this stage.
Yeah.
So then maybe, Karien, maybe you could also just explain to us, so what would be the process now if we decided that we wanted to secure our data, do backups, and we asked you to get involved? How would we do that? What is the next step?
Okay, so what we are suggesting is that, okay, I did have another 2 slides, but I'm not going to show them now. Let's just get out of them. So what I suggest, sorry, let me just get back to my Zoom. There we go. Now I can see you again. So if you are interested, what we'll do is we'll ask you what your environment is. So if you can tell us, okay, I've got 1 physical server, I've got 3 laptops, and I have a Microsoft 365, for example. Because if all you've got is 1 laptop and maybe Microsoft 365, then it's, then it's like a quick process. Chris, don't shoot me. But if you have more equipment, then obviously it's a little bit more work, etc. So we'll ask you some very basic questions. In fact, Chris, I think I'll put a little table together and we can just send it to you. And then whoever is interested can just fill out the little table. We'll tell you it'll take 1 hour, 2 hours to do the work. And then we decide on a date and a time and we just do it, because we don't need to physically be there. But Tanush is very, very well versed in this. I mean, he does them for bigger companies, so it's not a problem. And I think we just go ahead like that. It's not, I know it looks like a lot of steps, but once we've found all the information, so Chris you'll need to look at your environment, and that's easy. I mean, he can any desk to it, or he can connect to it a different way, or Tanush can physically be there. and just get the IP addresses, which is basically the phone number of your equipment, just so that we can find it, and then either make sure you have hard drives or help you to get some more hard drives, and just do it. It's really not
the
complicated.
trickiest part is integrating with Office 365, because then you obviously will have to add your tenant details in there, but that's done from your computer. So and you will have multi-factor authentication and all of those things. That's just something that might be tricky.
Yeah, so what we'll do while we're doing that is just to make sure that your basic security is set up. So I mean, if you're not currently using multi-factor authentication, I definitely won't allow Tanush or any of the other guys to create a backup for you without multi-factor authentication, because then we're just looking for trouble. But it's all built into the product. You don't have to buy anything else for that. You download the app on your phone. You've got, and that's a free app. The system has got multi-factor built in. Your 365 has got multi-factor built in. So, and yes, you'll curse us because you'll say, it's so complicated to get in, but it's really to protect all of us.
Okay, hey, Karien, about the synchronizing again. So let's say I leave the office, my laptop is at the office, and I come on my home laptop. So is everything backed up so I get access to all these stuff from the loss file I saved at the office, or is there any other step I have to do through the Veeam software, or how does it work?
That depends on where your backups are stored. If your home computer has access to that file or that folder or whatever, then you will obviously be able to, from Veeam, do the restore from your home.
Okay.
But the restore runs automatically. So as long as your equipment is running in your office, the backup will continue to run. And you can see the job from using the web interface as to what's happening, whether it's worked, whether it's not worked. And then, yeah, so then if you want to restore the backup onto your home computer now, then you will need access to the backup.
Okay.
So if it's connected to your laptop and your laptop is running, then you can get access into your laptop and then from there onto the hard drive, obviously.
Okay,
if your
I see.
laptop is switched off, you're not going to get access if it's connected to your laptop.
Okay, I see. Yeah, thanks.
Which is where it makes sense to put it in the cloud. But then again, you saw how quickly the data grows. So if you're doing backups every day, so remember how quickly that data is going to grow in the cloud, and you're paying for every byte that you are using in the cloud. So it is really easy to rack up quite substantial bills. Okay, so that's when you have to be a bit more careful.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, Denise is not complicated. I mean, it's like with any project. If it's something that the members would like us to do, if they can contact, just send an email or send a message. I'll ask Chris to put together a little table. They can fill out the table automatically so that we don't have to go backwards and forwards. We'll give them a quote for the installation, which won't be huge amounts of money, and yeah, and then find a time to do it and just do it. I know we're all used to IT projects that take years and months and complicated, but this isn't complicated, which I think is why I like the software. There's a lot of other software in the market, obviously, but with Veeam, 90% of the functionality is there in the community edition. So we don't call it a free edition, it's community, it's open source. So most of the functionality is there. It is free. It is easy to use. And and it's well tested and well tried. So it's not something that somebody's written in their garage that still wants it to become, you know, enterprise software. It's something that has been going for a long, long, long time, and we know it works.
I think, Karien, it looked a little bit complex when Chris was going through, because he knows what he's doing, and it's small on our screen because, you know, it's obviously it's a shared screen of a shared screen, and you know, so but obviously seeing all the pictures tells me that, you know, all the little pretty pictures, as you called them, it tells me that it's obviously developed to be user friendly, and the fact that it's an open source means it's developed for people like us who are not computer experts to understand. I appreciate that aspect of it. So you'll share a template, so anybody who would like to get Veeam on their system, they would need to just fill out this template and send it off to you. Do you want to maybe share your details in the chat so that, or maybe your first screen of your presentation that had all your contact details on? And then
what I was thinking is I'll share the presentation like I did the last time.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that, but yeah, in the meantime, I mean, for the people that are here, if you have any techie questions, please don't ask me. If you have techie questions, please ask Chris or Tanush.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions from the floor while we have Karien and Chris with us? Anything that anybody wants to know?
Yeah, so just quickly see what else I've got on here.
Honey.
So another question for the FABS team. Firstly, thank you so much. I found that very insightful and very practical. I really like the way you put it across in a presentation to us, even if we are not the IT experts by any means. So thank you for that. In South Africa, you've got AfriHost and you've got domains. Is there one that's better than the other that you can say, or are they much of a muchness? And I promise I won't publish your comment. It's just a personal thing, because up until now, I've been with AfriHost. And at the weekend, I got a real fright when suddenly I had no website to speak of online in the public domain. And when you talk of how important insurance is, I'm very happy that I've had these backups every quarter, even if it does cost money, because now they've been able to put it back online. So I just wondered if there was a hosting company that you preferred over the other.
Okay, personally, and again, I'd like not to be quoted, but I mean, in South Africa, most of us are moving away from the South African companies, quite frankly, and we are using GoDaddy now. So yes, you're paying in dollars, but I don't know, we're just finding, maybe because it's an American company, I think they're a bit more serious about keeping everything running, and there's a lot more replication going on in the environments. Having said that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the South African companies. We just, I don't know, that's just what personally, what a lot of our customers are now doing. I mean, GoDaddy's not the only one, there are lots of them, but I don't know, that's just one that seems to be quite popular now. And I think that's where something like Veeam is so important as well. So it's so easy to move, because if all your data and your environment is backed up, you literally just lift it and move it and install it on the other side. Whereas if now you've got your, like in your case, you've got your website, which is now backed up, you've got your files, but if you have data underlying all of that, you might not have backed any of that up. So how do you know what's the latest, what should be moving with it? It's at least now it's a package that the whole thing can move, which is the same with your physical environments. It's the package, the whole thing moves. So it's not bits and pieces that you have to remember. But please, let's understand it's still IT, okay? Things do go wrong. So, which is why those pretty green pictures are so important. But it's so much easier, especially for non-IT people, just to every morning, you know, just quickly open it. It's all green, fantastic, go on. If it's red, okay, who do I phone? Or should I do something? Does it matter? And I think the other thing, Chris, you didn't speak about is the deduplication. So we have so many documents that are the same, so many copies of the same document. I mean, we don't need 15 copies of our organogram just because we've stored it in 15 places. And if it's the same, we don't need to keep backing it up. So what is nice is with the deduplication is it does check for that. And you have to set it up. It won't automatically do it, but if you set it up, it will check for deduplication. So it will not store the same thing if it's metadata. In other words, so it doesn't go into the document to see if it's, so it doesn't compare line by line. It looks at the metadata. So it looks at the data surrounding it. So when was it last updated? Who updated it? And if it's unsure, then it keeps both. But in many cases, it can figure out, no, you know, I've already stored this thing 3 times. I'm not going to store it again. So there is some knowledge behind it, which is quite nice.
And that brings me to your earlier comment, Karien, saying that these days we don't only take one photograph on our phones, we take 20, 30, 50. Would this deduplication also not store multiple, even though there might be just a slight difference in each photo, or is that not?
No, because the metadata is different.
Okay.
So if it's so say for example you receive 3. So like now, Denise takes a photo of the screen. I've taken a photo just for argument's sake, and Monique has taken a photo of the screen. The screen is identically the same. Okay, then it will say, okay, it's identically the same. But if I moved my head like this when Denise took it and you moved your head like this, then it's a different photo. So the metadata is different. Okay, so no, it can't. The AI isn't. It's getting there, but the AI isn't quite smart enough yet to say it's more or less the same. It either is the same or it's not.
That makes sense. And also we might want the picture that's like this and not the one that's like that. And it wouldn't know which one we prefer. So, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So
are there any other questions?
Monique and Rick, we've heard from you. Elodie, Shazli, Meryl, Matty, anything? We can't see your faces. Sorry, Monique, I didn't mean to chase you away.
No, don't worry.
No comments.
No, it doesn't look like it. But I think that you did a fantastic job explaining it to us. And I got compliments to you from Ayub. He had to leave early, but he said please pass on his thanks for the talk. He found it very insightful. And he was very happy to have access to talks like this. So that was really nice. I mean, that's obviously what Indian aim to do, is to bring you talks that are useful to you in business. So good to hear that. So thank you very much, Karien and Chris. I think if there's no other questions, we've got hand clapping from Monique. Matty also gave us a thumbs up.
Thank you.
So
and I think sorry, Denise, maybe just to say, so I know a lot of MBN members don't have any servers, they don't have anything. I mean, they have a laptop. But just think of all the information you're storing on your laptop. Just imagine something going wrong with that laptop. So, and I know we think, oh, it's just a laptop and, you know, I'm a really, really tiny company and I can't do any of the stuff. But you know, for the really, really tiny people, I think it's even more important. And they don't have to keep, you know, 3 copies and 2 and 1 and etc. But at least do one automated backup that you feel secure about and that you know. And even if you don't do it every day, you know, then do it once a week. But I think it's so important because we're so reliant on these things. I mean, think when something goes wrong with your phone, how lost you feel. Imagine if it's your entire livelihood and you've lost all of it.
Karien, I don't know if you feel comfortable to share, but you know, if you would consider, or maybe you can just give it to us in a slightly different version. But you were telling me the other day about the tests that you do on a regular basis to make sure that you're aware of these scams, you know, at these phishing attempts and scams that are sent to try to catch us. And and you mentioned to me about these tests that you're doing and how easy it is to trick even people who are very au fait and understand what to look for. Perhaps you could just share with us, because I think maybe for some of us, even, you know, small businesses, we think, you know, we're a one-man, you know, a solopreneur. I'm not going to click on anything I shouldn't click on, so my data's secure. Just explain to us, and if you feel comfortable to share the story that you shared with me.
Okay, I can't remember exactly which one I shared, but I think, what is so important is it's so easy for us to make a mistake because we all get tired. We're all stressed out. We're all trying to do something at the last minute. So it's 6 o'clock at night. Your family's screaming at you. They want supper. You just quickly want to finish your emails and you stupidly click on something. It is so easy. You've got no idea. The same with your phone. I think one of the things is, so your mom or your daughter or your sister sends you a photo. So you've all been at a braai, or a function or a festival, and there've been lots of photos, and everybody's sending photos around. So you're expecting these photos. Now remember that the crooks also know this. So they send a photo, and it looks like it's coming from your mom or from the new friend you just met or the new person you added to your phone, and you click on that photo. That's it. Your phone's gone. The ransomware is loaded. It's sitting there. Your phone is connected to your business because you've got your email on your phone, right? 99% of us have our emails on our phones. So what happens? Okay, so the malware is sitting on your phone. You log into your email, you log into your bank, you log into whatever other application. The second you log into that malware moves across. Now it's in your email. Now you get to the office. Now you open the email in your office. Guess what's happening? Now your server is infected. Now your entire email system is infected. A week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, most likely 4 weeks later, you get this beautiful screen, and it's this red crossbone, and you've had it. I mean, none of us can afford the Bitcoins that these people are charging. I mean, they're saying 73% of all businesses have already been infected. 73%. I mean, look at us. 73% of us are in trouble. We don't even know it yet. So we have to be so aware because we are human and we make mistakes. I mean, for example, Kathy, who's our operations manager, her dad got a phone call from the bank. The bank said there have been 3 possible fraudulent transactions. He got the message to say these transactions, type yes or type no, you know, if you wanted to go through or not. He typed no. The bank phoned him and said, are you sure these 3 were fraudulent before we reverse them? And he said to them, let me just check again. That was all they needed. Just that, let me check again. And all 3 transactions came off his account. I mean, that's how simple it was. You got the SMS. You get the phone call. You link the 2 together because in your head they are linked. Instead of saying, thank you for informing me, reverse them, goodbye. Or thank you for calling me, goodbye. Because you can go into your internet banking and you can do something about it. Or you can then pick up the phone and phone fraud and speak to them. The fact that they are phoning you does not mean that it is them. I got a tender request from the government with all the correct information, with all the correct forms. I mean, I still feel like such an idiot. And I do lots of these tender requests, lots of them. It came from somebody that I know in this government department. We completed all the forms, all the documents. We sent through the pricing. We got awarded. It was a massive amount. It was 753,000 Rand, okay? It is a lot of money for a small business. Thankfully, I picked up the phone to confirm that this was a legitimate order. It was not. It was a scam. It had the right phone numbers. It had the right information. It had the right government forms. It had all our correct information. It is so easy to fall for this. Denise, the story you're talking about, I did the test, okay?
Yes.
So, I did the test. I had to pass an exam. There were 10 questions. I did not pass it. Chris, you're going to laugh at me. I could not get 80% on this test. Because of course it's a randomized test. So every time you write it, it's a different one. It was so real. You've got no idea. So you have to be so careful. If you get a link in an email, never, ever, ever click on it. Okay? Hover over it, see where it goes, copy it, and paste it into your web browser, or otherwise retype it in. If your bank contacts you, never click on a link. Never. They will never send you a link, and they will never ask you for personal information. Never. Okay? So never, ever, ever fall for that trick. Be careful about like any major event. So for example, if there's an election, if it's tax filing season, if your business is on a quarterly VAT cycle, at that quarterly VAT cycle, the crooks know this. They know more than you, they know more than we know. They really do, because, and I keep saying this, data protection is so late. Because all your information is out there. Every single piece of your information is out there. And if we really went and looked, I promise you, I could tell you your bank account, I could tell you your credit card number, I could tell you the CVV number, I could tell you your name, your address, where you've lived in the last 20 years, because it is all out there. The trick is, and the good thing is, it's not all connected at this stage. So all the information is there, but it's not all connected. Which makes it harder for the cyber criminals to catch us. But if they are targeting you, you've had it. The chances of you escaping, they are relentless. And at some point you will make a mistake. I know, I mean, Tish, what's her name? Tisha keeps telling me I'm so negative. I'm not negative. I'm a very positive person. I'm just trying to warn people. I'm not saying you're going to fall for it. But I'm saying at some point, we all make a mistake. All of us. It happens. Okay? So if somebody sends you something, check with them that they've actually sent it. I mean, Android phones are the most hackable device, operating system on the planet at this moment in time. So make sure you're updated. Make sure you've backed up. Make sure that you don't click on things. Be careful. Okay, and Monique, I'm also an Apple person, but Apple's not far behind at this stage, because more and more people are moved to Apple because it's a bit more secure. But it's, I mean, and you know, remember,
worries me a lot are, you know, not that I'm an IT person by any means, but an older generation, like my mum at the beginning when all those emails came through and were offering hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars, you almost have an innocence at that age. You don't realize. So when you point out to us now that the crooks are relentless, you know, you've got to drum that into, you know, if your mum has her laptop and then another device and another device, because it's just a huge fear, really. It's a huge fear of how they can get cleaned out. And we know, we've seen examples of it. It's reported in the media. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just so easy. And I think the banks are so fed up now with refunding people because of their own stupidity that they're not. I mean, they're not refunding people anymore. So if it's a mistake by the bank, yes, then they will refund you. But if it's something you did, they are. And I mean, I know this firsthand, because like with Kathy's dad, they gave him a token amount back, but it's not even a tenth of what he lost. It's really scary what's out there, because you must remember, I mean, we are protecting ourselves, which is great, but the crooks, it's not a human being that's targeting you. It's a bot. And it doesn't sleep, and it's in the network, and it's hammering at your door non-stop. And at some point you get fed up because you say, stop now, and you think it'll stop by doing something. You know, it's like somebody's knocking at your front door. Eventually you'll open the door. Never open that door. Call the police, but I don't know what you do. But, you know, protect yourself. Don't get fed up. Don't get frustrated. Don't get, yes, another spam email. Okay, let's see what they want. Don't do that.
Karien, when you mentioned earlier that this Veeam can do 10 users, would that be phone, laptop, iPad?
No. That's your workload. So
Okay.
your workload is the IT equipment. The 10 users is, for example, your mailbox.
Okay.
So 10 Microsoft 365 users.
Okay.
So a user is a unique human being. So I mean, in your case,
maybe.
Yeah, an email address. So you've got tech and admin and sales and Denise and
that's 4.
Yeah, so each one of those would be one of the 10.
Okay.
And then your workloads would be your laptop, your server, your cloud. Remember, Microsoft 365 will count as one of those workloads. So it can be an application, it can be a SaaS, in other words, something sitting in the cloud like your 365. It can be your virtual environment. So maybe let's just explain quickly. So virtual environment is if you have a server or even a laptop and you're running more than one environment on it. Okay, so you have the physical machine, but then you're running a Windows environment, and you're running a Linux environment, and you're running another environment on it. Then you've got if those were 3 different environments on one physical server, that would be 4 workloads, because you'd have your physical and you'd have your 3 virtual environments. Okay, and then you would have your Microsoft 365, so that would be your 5th. Okay. And okay, am I explaining it well? Chris, have you got a comment around that?
No, I think you covered it. Microsoft stuff will be separated. So if you have your 4 servers, then that will be a count of 4. And then if you have 8 users that you want all their Microsoft stuff backed up, that will be 8. But you have 10 entitlements.
Up to 10, yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing is, remember, for your Microsoft environment, you only have one, Chris, what is it? 1 terabyte of SharePoint data that you can store.
Yeah, I think that's yeah.
Yeah, because you only have one SharePoint environment, and you've got lots of mailbox email users. So, yeah. Okay, because Denise, I think you use SharePoint, right? I think you do. Yeah. Yeah. Rick, I don't know. You and I were still going to look at your environment. Remember, you still wanted some sort of health check on your environment.
Exactly, yeah. It's still in the project, so I'll probably contact you very soon, and we can have a look at that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
So-
you very much, Karien. I really appreciate all the information that you and Chris have shared with us, and I hope that even though many of you have not had a lot to say, I hope that you've taken lots of information in. And if you do have any questions, that you can reach out. Karien has given her email address and Chris's email address, and I think you put Tanuj there as well, didn't you? So yes,
Yeah.
Tanuj as well.
Yeah.
So please do feel free to connect with either of them or any of the three. And yeah, I hope that the information has been useful and that we are all protected and just made aware of what is out there, and yeah, to make sure that we protect our companies, ourselves, our clients, our suppliers. Lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Karien. And we'll share the PowerPoint presentation with you probably tomorrow. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I'll share
Karien.
it. Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.